again.
Shortstop, Jimmy Rollins.
In his first game back at Citizens Bank Park, where he played more games and had more hits than anyone, he had 2 more with his new team. On a frustrating night in which the Dodgers out-hit the Phillies 11-10, but left 13 men on base, it was one pitch to a 22-year-old third baseman, Maikel Franco, who was 7 years old when Rollins made his Philly debut, that broke a 1-1 tie and Joel Peralta's heart. Last night it was out with the old and in with the new. Tonight, Brett Anderson and the first-place Dodgers look to even the score. It's a beautiful night for baseball, and live from Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia, Sportsnet LA presents the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Philadelphia Phillies in Game 2 of this 3-game series. Hi again, everybody. Charlie Steiner, no more Garcia Power. Oral is off this week. Dodgers lose last night, a frustrating loss. Brett Anderson making the start tonight. His 21st of the year, the most since his rookie year with Oakland back in 2009. And one thing about Brett Anderson, when he's right, we're going to see a lot of ground balls.
That's for sure. And I'm so impressed with what Brett Anderson has done this year. The Dodgers believed in him. And even more than that, Brett Anderson believed in himself. Just taking a 1-year deal as opposed to a multi-year deal, believing that he can go out there and prove that he is going to be the pitcher he was his rookie year. And there it is, the ground balls, leading the major leagues in ground ball percentage.
So we are in historic Philadelphia as the Dodgers and the Phillies get ready for the second game of this 3-game series. Dodgers lead the Giants by 2 in the West. We'll be back with the lineups and first pitch right after this. On this Wednesday night in Philadelphia, where the sun is beginning to set, and our closed captioning is brought to you by First 5 California. Talk, we sing, it changes everything. You know, the 119 days that the season has been played to this point, the Dodgers have been in first place in 109 of them. At a 2-game lead over the Giants as we get ready for the second game of the 3-game series. And Don Mattingly's starting lineup is brought to you by Honda, with Jimmy Rollins leading off and Howie Kendrick hitting second, Adrian Gonzalez at first base. Andre Ethier is in left, Yasiel Puig in right field. Joc Pederson in center, Alberto Callaspo starting at third base. Callaspo is 5 for 13 in his career against the Phillies starter Aaron Harang. A.J. Ellis off the DL, back in the lineup. Brett Anderson pitching and batting ninth, and indeed Harang, the 37-year-old right-hander out of San Diego, making his 19th start of the year.
Well, Aaron Harang comes at you with a fastball, slider, cutter, curveball, and changeup. Kind of reminds me of the pitcher they saw last night in Jerome Williams, where it's not going to be an overpowering fastball. It's going to rely on movement, going to rely on keeping the ball down in the zone, because when it's in the air, it can have a tendency to fly out of the ballpark. So for the Dodgers, try to get him up in the zone, because he's not going to be able to blow it by you, or shouldn't, and be able to get on top of it.
And while the Phillies are 17 games out of a wild card spot, they're a Major League best 13-3 since the All-Star break, and the defense behind Aaron Harang the same as it was last night. Maikel Franco at third base is just an outstanding player, both sides of the ball. Freddie Galvis at short, Cesar Hernandez at second base, Ryan Howard at first. Carlos Ruiz behind the plate, Ruff, Herrera, and Francoeur in right field. So the Phillies at 60 and 46. Correction, 42 and 65 have turned things around, and they've got 3 young studs at the top of their lineup. They've given them some energy, and again, it's a long way to go. This season has been run for them, but already looking ahead to the new year.
Well, we always talk about those September call-ups to see what young guys have. Well, they've been able to call up guys a lot sooner than that, give them an opportunity to play and show what they're made of.
And for the second consecutive night, Jimmy Rollins gets a standing ovation as he steps into the batter's box. The prodigal son should come home more often. Had a big night last night. 2 for 5, an outstanding defensive play, and on the first pitch, a fly ball into short right field. Francoeur is there, and that's it. 1 pitch, 1 out, we're underway. Well, so much for the drama of the first at-bat.
Well, I'm sure he was going in going, all right, had it yesterday, let's go, let's focus, and then you get another great standing ovation. And you saw him, he stepped in the box and took a step back to show the crowd how much he appreciated that.
Howie Kendrick stepping in, and he takes a strike. 0-1. Kendrick at 285. You know, he's 10th in the league hitting with runners in scoring position at 349. He lines out base hit into left field. 1 out and 1 on here in the first inning. So Aaron Harang, an ERA of just south of 4, has given up a dozen home runs in 111 innings. He is 37 years old now. Born, raised, still lives in San Diego. Came up with the A's, then to the Reds, Padres, Dodgers, Mariners, Mets, Braves, and now Philadelphia. Adrian Gonzalez steps in. Gonzalez at 295. Gonzalez, in his time against Aaron Harang, 10 for 23 and 3 home runs. So the Dodgers have some fellas who have hit Harang well and often over the years. 2 balls and no strikes. Gonzalez 2 for 4 and a walk last night. Gonzalez is having a typical Gonzalez year, hitting right around 300, 295 at the moment. 21 home runs, 61 runs batted in. You can almost bank on the fact on opening day and then by the end of the season, Gonzalez will be right around 300 and figure he'll have about 30 or so home runs and 100 and something RBIs.
Talked about just consistency that he brings on a daily basis. So not only that, Charlie, on the offensive side, you're like, yeah, write him in. He's going to be hitting around those numbers. They'll be there when it's all said and done. But you also know he's going to be equally as consistent around first base bag. It just make the infield so much better.
4 Gold Gloves in his career. 2-1. Kendrick a short lead. Sliced foul, well hit. Gonzalez, of course, came up originally with the Marlins, then to the Rangers, then to the Padres, Red Sox, and Dodgers. 2-2 with Kendrick leading from first. Out of play. In 5 of his last 6 games against the Phillies, .391, a couple of home runs and 5 runs batted in. Ethier is on deck. When Harang is on his game, what does he do? And when he's not, what can hitters expect to do?
Or when he's on his game is his off-speed pitch, when he stays down in the zone, because he'll have some tailing movement on his fastball, and that has a tendency to tail more when it's down in the zone. And his breaking pitch as well have better bite. So he actually will give you that high fastball for show to set your sights up there and then come down.
Lined into right field for a base hit. Hendrick will stay put. The Dodgers have first and second and 1 man out, and Andre Ethier coming up.
He was challenging with some fastballs, different pitches that he was fouling off, and then here he gets that hanging breaking ball. As we were just talking about, Charlie, you're like, that breaking ball, when it's down in the zone, it's effective. Guys have a tendency to pound that one in the zone and roll over it. When it's up like that, it's very hittable. And Adrian Gonzalez's nice single to right field.
Ethier .250 in his career against Harang. .279 on the year. Puig on deck. The Dodgers have a threat. Dodgers were 2 for 12 with runners in scoring position last night, squandering an awful lot of opportunities.
And the last outing that Harang was against Atlanta on the 30th of July, and he went 5 innings. He gave up 9 hits in those 5 innings, but only allowed 1 earned run. So definitely some people on base.
Ethier with a dozen home runs. Takes a strike. 1 ball and 1 strike to Andre Ethier.
There's that bottom part of the zone that we talked about. And you can afford a strike or 2. You can let that one go and still set your sights up high.
The 1-1. To the right side. They've got only 1 play. That's to first. Ethier is out. Kendrick goes to third. And Gonzalez goes to second. And Puig is coming up. Dodgers last night in the 2nd inning had 2nd and 3rd and nobody out. Failed to score. Had the bases loaded, nobody out in the 4th inning. Couldn't cash in a run. So now the Dodgers with 2nd and 3rd and 2 out here in the 1st. And Puig has enjoyed Harang. 5 hits and 6 at-bats against him. Puig was 1 out of 4 with a run scored last night. And he takes a strike. It's 0-1. It was a frustrating night for the Dodgers last night. Alex Wood pitched so well. Dodgers would end up leaving 13 men on base. And the 0-1 to Puig. Drilled to left and deep. It is on its way, and it is gone. A home run. A 3-run home run for Yasiel Puig. His 8th of the year. He's now 6 for 7 against Harang, and the Dodgers take a 3-0 lead.
Talked about Harang up in the zone and that breaking ball where it can just hang there when it's up. Adrian Gonzalez takes advantage of it, and Yasiel Puig gets the hands extended, gets the timing out in front just a little bit, but enough behind it, and he's so strong, and when he hit it, he knew it. He was watching it right out of the box.
So the Dodgers with the early 3-0 lead. The 13th home run Harang has given up this year. And Joc Pederson takes low and outside, 1 ball and no strikes.
We talked about the frustration yesterday on the offensive side where they had opportunities, 2 for 12, runners in scoring position. And you and I, Charlie, were talking about too how 2-out RBIs, we said this all year, how big they are, how important they are, how they're uplifting to your team, how demoralizing they are to the opposing team. Well, Yasiel Puig comes up big with a 2-out, 3 RBIs.
And a 3-0 lead for the Dodgers as Pederson takes outside. 3 balls and no strikes to Joc Pederson. Walked 3 times and struck out last night. And so Brett Anderson will have a 3-run lead to work with. And a 4-pitch walk to Pederson. Alberto Callaspo, another Dodger who has feasted on the cooking of Aaron Harang. 5 for 13 and 3 walks. Hitting .226 on the year is Callaspo, but since coming to the Dodgers at .250, making his 19th start at third base. Inside and low. Last night, the Dodgers had the hammer in their hand so often against the Phillies. Couldn't close the door on Jerome Williams. Kept the Phillies around, and eventually they'd win the game. Tonight, first inning, statement with an exclamation point.
Well, we talked about Alex Wood right there. We see he had a tremendous game, kept the Dodgers in the game despite the opportunities they had to give him a lead to maybe take a little bit of pressure off of him in his Dodger debut. But they just kept squandering opportunity after opportunity, and the Phillies ended up taking advantage of that in the end.
Grand slam by Franco. So an early 3-run lead on the Puig home run. Callaspo takes a strike. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Tomorrow a matinee, and we'll be back on the air with you a little after 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific time. It'll be Greinke and Buchanan tomorrow. Then it's on to Pittsburgh for the weekend. Kershaw, Latos, and Wood. On Friday night, you want a pitcher's duel? We've got one for you. Clayton Kershaw and Garrett Cole. Greinke goes tomorrow. 1-2. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Yeah, on paper that would be a nice little pitcher's duel right there. Those 2 guys on the hill. We'll stay up for that one, Charlie.
Again, when you can trot out Greinke and Kershaw 2 out of every 5 days, you're bound to see some terrific pitching duels, and we have seen some. Greinke, of course, at his last outing, beat Santiago and the Angels. And of course, he had that big showdown with DeGrom a week ago Sunday.
With that Mets rotation, isn't it always seem like if you have any ace going against that Mets rotation, it seems like it's going to be a pitcher's duel, because that is a very formidable rotation they have over there.
Oh boy, are they hot too. Here's the 2-2. Inside and low, 3 balls and 2 strikes. Mets and Marlins just underway down in Florida. Giants are in Atlanta. Giants failed to score in the first inning. 3 balls, 2 strikes. There goes Pederson. Here comes the pitch to the second baseman, Hernandez. Goes to Howard. That's that. Kendrick with a single. Gonzalez with a single. And Yasiel Puig with his 8th home run of the year. A 3-run shot. Brett Anderson has a 3-run lead to work with as he gets ready for his 21st start of the year. The interim managers put this Honda lineup together, beginning with Cesar Hernandez, Odubel Herrera, and Michael Franco. Francoeur, Howard, and Ruff through the middle. Freddie Galvis, Carlos Ruiz, Aaron Harang pitching and batting 9th. And the 27-year-old left-hander Brett Anderson in search of his 6th win of the year. ERA of 3.14, opposing hitters 272 against him. He's given up 10 home runs, and when he's on, it's almost all ground balls. 1-1 to Hernandez.
I was asked before the game about Alex Wood and what I thought of his performance, and I said I love the way he pounded the strike zone, and he had a good rhythm, good pace out there on the hill. He worked quickly, allowed the defense to be ready, poised, and the reason I bring him up because Brett Anderson does the same thing. When he's on, he is working quickly, he's pounding the strike zone and inducing those ground balls.
And he strikes out. Hernandez breaking ball down and in. Defensively behind Brett Anderson tonight, Callaspo, who has not made an error at third base, is coming to the Dodgers. Rollins at short, Kendrick at second, Gonzalez at first. Round up the usual suspects in the outfield. 8th year Pederson and Puig. A.J. Ellis behind the plate, making his first start since coming off the disabled list. Odubel Herrera coming up. 1 ball and no strikes. Herrera takes strike 1-1. Brett Anderson, his 21st start of the year. And here's a little ground ball that rolls foul. Anderson, with his 21st start, It's the most starts he has made since his rookie year back in 2009 when he was with Oakland. On the road this year, an ERA of under 3. Since the first start that he made in May, an ERA of 2 2/3. So he has turned in a very solid season, his 1-loss record notwithstanding. Herrera's at .283 with 5 home runs and another ground ball. We'll see a lot of them tonight. Boy, can Herrera run. A routine play, and he's out by an eyelash.
In your scouting reports before you go into the series, you know guys like Herrera can get down the line, and then you see moments like this, how fast he gets down there on a routine ground ball, and he makes it so close, kind of a bang bang play. Well, that's something that you're telling yourself in the back of your mind, like, all right, yeah, I knew the scouting report, I knew he was fast, didn't realize he was that fast, so now I better make sure I speed up every time I get that ground ball hit from him.
And here is Maikel Franco, who began the season first 6 weeks at AAA. And now he's as legitimate a Rookie of the Year candidate as anybody.
On that first pitch, we talk about Brett Anderson working fast. Well, he worked so fast. Franco wanted timeout. Umpire didn't get him, and just first pitch strike. So already Franco's a little bit frustrated. You could also see from that first pitch and that second one from that swing right there.
Quickly ahead, 0-2 to Franco. Just inside. Francoeur on deck, Howard to follow. The Dodgers a 3-0 lead on Puig's 3-run home run in the top half of the first. Well hit, but well fouled. Well, the Phillies, look, they're 17 games out of a wild card spot, so they're not going anywhere, but they are testing some of these new young players of theirs. Hernandez, their leadoff hitter's 25, Herrera's 23, and Franco is 22, and interim manager Pete McCannon has a lot to work with. Iaspo with the bare hand, and it can't be grabbed by Gonzalez. Franco had difficulty getting out of the batter's box to boot.
For a second, at first, the way Franco stumbled out of the box, I was like, did it hit him in the foot? But obviously it didn't, because he was running out. He just stumbled. And for Iaspo, obviously it's a barehanded play, but he's going to tell you, I should make that throw, because he came up with it cleanly. This is what we're talking about, out of the box, slips out. So that also gave Iaspo some time to make a good throw to first base, and unable to do it.
So the error goes to Iaspo. We mentioned at the open of the broadcast, hadn't made an error all year with the Dodgers.
See, there you go. So you mentioned,
yes,
there you go. Way to go, Charlie. You got him.
EC. Line drive into left field for a base hit. Franco stays put at second base. So Francoeur, who's been one of the elder statesmen on the new Phillies. 2-out single to left, and Ryan Howard's coming up.
Well, that error by Iaspo, it's unfortunate, because we talk about those ever important shutdown innings. Well, you get a 3-spot handed to you as a starting pitcher from Brett Anderson. We're talking about his pace. He was working so fast and has been doing great, and he has a chance at a 1-2-3 inning, and now he finds himself facing Ryan Howard with 2 guys on.
Howard, of course, has had difficulty against left-handed pitching, and a fly ball to left field. And 8th year is there. That's that. So in the end, Anderson has a shutdown inning. No runs, a hit, and an error. 3-0 Dodgers as we go to the second. on the Reds. And let us help you stay cool, being one of the first 40,000 fans in attendance, and receive a spray bottle with fan presented by Farmer John. For more information, go to Dodgers.com/promotions. So A.J. Ellis will lead it off for the Dodgers here in the second. Fresh off the disabled list. He was hot at the time he went down. Bruised his knee. There was no structural damage at all. Landed awkwardly trying to catch a bunt foul down the third base line. Landed straight on the knee. And he fouls it off to the right. No balls and 2 strikes.
And it was one of those injuries where even the training staff knew that it may not take very long for it to heal, but being a catcher and you don't really have so much depth on there, they couldn't take any risks, so they immediately put him on the DL.
Austin Barnes came up, and Austin Barnes went back.
Yeah, I think Austin Barnes probably knew, as soon as his 15 days are up, I'm sent down.
Anderson on deck, Rollins to follow, and it's sliced foul. So Ellis was hitting well at the time of the injury. But of course the Dodgers, like no team, can afford to have no backup catching.
You're right, Charlie. I mean, he was riding a 6-game hitting streak, which he carries into today's game. He was hitting 400 over those 6 games. He was hitting near 320 over his last 17 games.
He works the count full, 3-2. Well, that's one thing that Ellis has done from his minor league career to this day. He's always been able to work the count well. He walks almost as often as he strikes out, so his on-base percentage has been quite good over the course of his career, and he takes a walk.
The reason I'm chuckling, I played with AJ and we were teammates, and I remember talking to him about, walking so much and why. He goes, no, I never could hit really good, so I figured if I try to take as much as I can. So I started laughing. I'm like, don't sell yourself short, because when you're swinging the bat well, you can hit.
Brett Anderson has 6 sacrifice bunts this year. He takes a strike, 0-1. Anderson 2 for 29. And he bunts. Throw down to second base, and Ellis beats the throw. Out at first is Anderson. So Ellis beats the throw. The Phillies are thinking about having a replay request, and that's what they're going to ask for from home plate umpire Alan Porter. Call made by the crew chief, second base umpire Jeff Kellogg. So Kellogg and Brian O'Nora will go and have a listen to the folks in New York.
And on that replay, reason they called him safe wasn't so much about the ball beating him, but that his foot, Jeff Kellogg was saying that he was off the bag when he received the ball. That's why he called him safe at second. And then they get the out at first.
That was quite a throw from Carlos Ruiz. Talk about a snap throw.
Oh, well, he jumped out there so quickly. Obviously, the bunt wasn't out in front as it should have been. Hits off the plate. But you can also right here, let's see if we can also see what Jeff Kellogg calls. You got, it's going to close. Was his foot off the bag? That's what we're looking to see. He calls him safe, and then his next reaction after that is he gives the motion like he's off the bag. So it was really close to see if he kept that foot on prior to making that throw to first base.
The golden days of yesteryear, neighborhood play was good enough.
Right. And now a lot of times too, you can't even replay a neighborhood play, but depending on where the throw is, if it's an accurate throw. But But obviously this is more of a question, did he keep that foot on? And watch here, there's what I'm talking about. You say, okay, here it is. Did he keep that foot on or not? Because the ball looked like it beat him when his foot was back there, but he calls him safe. And then Kellogg goes, here's the motion. He's off the bag right there. So now that's what they're checking.
Well, they've been showing the replay up on the scoreboard here too, and as Honora and Kellogg are listening to the folks in New York, they've been watching what you've just been watching. And here comes the verdict. Out. So a double play. Two, 6-3 double play. So 2 out and nobody on. And here's Jimmy Rollins. Rollins on the first pitch of the game flied to right. Boy, he was front page news yesterday, front page news in today's papers. And a fly ball into short center field. Galvis calling everybody off. Herrera's first instinct in center was to back up. And so it was Galvis who would save the day. No runs, no hits, no errors, nobody left. 3-0 Dodgers. We go to the bottom of the second. This Wednesday night. Brett Anderson, through the course of the season, has had difficulty with the first third of the batting order, but the middle of the lineup is where he has excelled. Fifth hitters are hitting .212 and batting sixth, only .213. Darren Ruff batting sixth and leading it off in the second. For the Phillies, the Dodgers a 3-0 lead on the Puig home run. And Anderson, who threw 16 pitches, 12 for strikes in the first inning, falls behind 1-0 against Ruff, who has enjoyed left-handed pitching.
Yeah, we just saw those numbers about Brett Anderson. You're like, all right, 1 through 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, does better. But then you have Ruff, who's 393 versus left-handed pitcher. What does it all mean, Charlie?
It means the 2-0 pitch is on the way. And it drops in for a base hit. So a leadoff single for Ruff, and that's the second hit of the night for the Phillies. Now Freddie Galvis coming up. And Galvis against left-handed pitching, he's a switch hitter. 359. Carlos Ruiz is on deck. And this would be a tailor-made 4-6-3 double play. Well, Brett Anderson induces those ground balls, and that's the first double play he has induced tonight.
Oh, we talked about it before the game, Charlie, about leading the major leagues in ground balls. And that's one thing that he does so well. And even if he gets a guy on leadoff runner, there's no panic in Brett Anderson, knowing that he can, if he hits his spot, can get the ground ball, and he gets a double play.
Well, 2/3 of the balls that are put in play off Anderson are ground balls. So the one thing you don't want to be on this Wednesday night in Philadelphia is a worm on the infield grass.
Heads up.
But not for long. Ruiz at 220, couple of home runs. What? 1 ball, 2 strikes. Harang on deck. Chooch, one of the last man standing from the great Phillies teams in 2011 or 2007 through 11 and 12. You know, Chase Utley is rehabbing, and it's made a lot of news here in Philadelphia. And the question is, now that it appears that Cesar Hernandez is going to be their everyday second baseman from now until forevermore. His rehabbing, is he rehabbing for the Phillies or some other team? Here's the 1-2. And I raise that issue because Joe Panik, the second baseman for the Giants, is on the disabled list with a bad back.
So you're thinking maybe that's a possibility where he could end up?
Ball strike 3, and that ends the inning. Anderson's second strikeout of the night. No runs, 1 hit, and nobody left. Anderson has a 3-0 lead. And LA data strong fan, and you just might see yourself in an upcoming telecast brought to you by T-Mobile. Just to follow up the thought on Chase Utley, born in Southern California, now lives in Northern California. Jimmy Rollins, of course, his double play partner for more than a dozen years with the Dodgers now. About Ruiz, one of the last men standing. Hamels, of course, was traded. Giants may need a second baseman. The Cubs apparently would be in the market as well. So Chase Utley is rehabbing, and the question is for whom?
And there's been other teams even talking about, or they've mentioned about, well, maybe they don't want him just for second base. Maybe some other teams might look at him, maybe moving to first base or another spot. Maybe take it a little bit easier on his body. But you know, he has to agree to any trade. But they are, you know, that's a youth movement going on here in Philly. There's no secret about that they have to rebuild. And they're really fond of that guy right there, Miguel Franco.
On 3-1 to Kendrick. It's now a full count. So the Phillies in full rebuilding mode. Kendrick leading off in the third. Fouls it off to the right. Kendrick single to left in his first at bat. Gonzalez would single, and then with 2 out, Puig hit a home run. Here's a 3-2. Already 45 pitches thrown by Aaron Harang, and we're just beginning the third inning. Into center field, and that's Herrera. And that's the first out of the third. Adrian Gonzalez coming up. Gonzalez 2 for 4 last night. And 1 for 1 tonight. And 11 for 24 in his career against Harang. 1 ball, no strikes to Gonzalez. Giants have taken a 2-0 lead in Atlanta. The Braves are hitting in the bottom of the second. Giants 2 games behind the Dodgers. Padres and Diamondbacks each 8.5 off the pace. Colorado a winner today, 7-5 over the Mariners, 15 behind the Dodgers. Low and inside, 3 balls, no strikes to Adrian Gonzalez.
The ones where Adrian doesn't even look. He's going to decide 3-0 whether he likes it to swing away or not. He has the green light.
Taking all the way, 3-1. So unless it's right there, he's not swinging.
It's his decision.
Into center field, Herrera.
And what I mean by that, Charlie, is there are a lot of guys 3-0. You look down and you get a sign. Your third base coach will say, you know, give a sign whether they want you to take or not. And veteran guy who knows his swing, he'll determine whether he feels good or not. Lorenzo doesn't have to give any sign. Lorenzo probably just looked away like, you know what, you have the green light. If you like it, go ahead and crush it. If you don't.
You're asking me?
Yeah, you know yourself.
Ethier bounced to second base at his first at bat. It's inside and low. 1 ball and no strikes. That's third base umpire Brian O'Nora, who's calling the balls and strikes last night. Alan Porter is calling the balls and strikes tonight. He's a Philadelphia kid in his 3rd big league season. And Ethier with a 2-out single to right. That'll bring up Puig.
We're going to have a look at Yasiel. He hit a home run in his first at bat here, but we're going to have a look at his batting stance. We talk about this game of adjustments, and Yasiel making an adjustment into today. So look at that front foot. Look at that. That's July 26, swinging through that pitch, but the front foot open here. And here's a breaking ball. He hasn't had much success on curveballs. Sliders, yes, has hit them, but no curveball base hits yet this year. And that one he deposits over left field wall.
His 8th home run of the year, now with 29 runs batted in. Takes a strike, and it's 0-1. Puig at 251 now. And the Dodgers a 3-0 lead. On 0-1, it's high strike on the outside corner, 0-2.
You know, as we have a look, a lot of times guys will open up a little bit more because when on the left side, when you stride toward, you actually close yourself even more. And that you want to stay in that position, so you kind of exaggerate a little, you open up, so when you do stride it kind of gets close, so you're not striding too far over toward first base and closing yourself off. Because when your hips close yourself off and your front foot, you know, if you stride or step towards second, first base side, then your shoulders fly open in order to try to catch up to a ball. And
Puig with electric game numbers, 6 out of 7 against Harang.
And Charlie, when you have to fly open like that to try to catch up to the ball, your bat drops, and we've seen Yasiel swing under a lot of pitches. So he's trying to make adjustments to alleviate that problem.
A little tweak here and there. To the right side. Easy hop for Hernandez. And an easy inning for Harang. No runs and a hit. Harang will lead off in the bottom of the third. The Dodgers and Brett Anderson have a 3-0 lead.
Phillies 3-0 off the Yasiel Puig home run. Hey everyone, I'm Kelly Tennant. Well, for the Dodgers, their number 3 guy, Brett Anderson, has proven himself as very valuable for this team. And I talked to the guys earlier today about what it's like to have him with Zach Greinke and Clayton Kershaw, and they have been extremely impressed at his production and what he's able to do, and the fact that he uses them to motivate his play.
Brett Anderson, the 27-year-old lefty from Texas, making his 21st start of the season. Noteworthy because it's the most number of starts he has made in a season since his rookie year back in 2009. Of course, he has been beset by a various number of injuries over the years. And when he dinged his Achilles a couple of starts back, as Harang is done, 3rd strikeout of the game for Anderson. Like everybody in the Dodger organization says, uh-oh, not again.
Oh, yeah.
Including Anderson.
Of course. I mean, when you're dealing with injuries constantly, and I can attest to that, it's like you get one little thing, you're like, really? Again? Is this, how bad is it? You really kind of do an assessment, especially the next day, how your body recovers. And it recovered well. He was able to make his next start after that. And go off what Kelly says. And well, I'm sure to have guys like Clayton Kershaw and Zach Greinke with you that they're motivating.
Hernandez takes outside.
I think they could be motivating and demoralizing at the same time, going, okay, wait a minute. What are my expectations after that?
I got to keep up with them.
Right, exactly.
A little chopper. This is going to be a tough play. And it's going to be too late.
Well, we just talked about that Achilles with Brett Anderson. in getting off the mound. And despite the Achilles injury, Brett Anderson isn't one that really jumps off the mound. So he was unable to get that ball. And that's really all Howie Kendrick could do right there. It was a great effort right there, but you got the speedy Hernandez.
So once it got past Anderson, really no chance for Kendrick. One out, one on, and Odubel Herrera bounced to third in his first at-bat. Dodgers a 3-0 lead on Puig's 3-run home run in the first. Herrera takes a strike, 0-1. So the Phillies becoming a youthful and speedy team. Hernandez at first base is 25 years of age. Herrera in the batter's box is 23. And Maikel Franco, who's on deck, is 22. There's a strike. Anderson with a 93-mile-an-hour fastball, 94 earlier tonight.
I've been looking at the gun as well, Charlie. He touched 95 on one of them as well. So there's the 94, 95. It's been 7 days since his last start, right? And so maybe the extra rest there is a little bit of extra strength there in his arm.
A ball and 2 strikes to Herrera. Slowly hit to third. There's one. Not in time at first base. Nice flip throw by Callaspo.
Well, after making that error and still being able to trust yourself to throw off the run there, and Callaspo knows he, in order to try to have any chance at Herrera, he has to get that ball quickly to Howie Kendrick. And also, you know that Hernandez has speed, so you want to get it to your second baseman quickly so he's not hung out to dry and get killed.
Now with 2 out, here's Franco. Got a board on the error by Callaspo in his first at-bat. Franco with the grand slam last night. It's remarkable. The first 6 weeks of the year he was at AAA. Now he's got 12 home runs, 44 runs batted in. And legitimate talk as a Rookie of the Year candidate.
He should definitely be considered. There's no question about that, especially what he's done. And I mean, us just watching him, he plays good defense over there at third base. He's got a big swing. He's strong. You talk to Phillies organization people. They say they really like his work ethic too. They said he works really hard at his craft, listens. You have all that. Well, that's making for a really solid big leaguer.
No balls, 2 strikes. Runner goes. Fly ball, right field. Puig going back, and it's off the base of the wall. Now with Herrera running with the pitch, he scores easily. Arriving at second base is Franco with the double. The Phillies are on the board. The Dodger lead is 3-1.
Well, we talked about his strength, and he does a good job getting on top of this fastball and driving it the other way. You know, it was interesting on this ball here where the infielders were. They were kind of, you know, with Howie Kendrick kind of caught no man's land there. Usually the second baseman goes out there as a cutoff man. And you got your shortstop covering second. Nobody was really at second. If Howie's back there, he might have had a chance to possibly tag him out with that arm by Yasiel.
Now Francoeur takes a ball. In consecutive games in June at Yankee Stadium, Franco knocked in 5 runs. Well, he knocked in 4 last night, 1 tonight. Francoeur takes low and outside. So Harang began the inning by striking out. Hernandez got a board on the infield hit, a force out, and the 2 out double by Franco. 2-1 to Frenchie. Jeff Francoeur. He, in his high school days, considered one of the best football players in the state of Georgia. And he was this far away from going to Florida State. He then would sign with the Braves. He and Brian McCann came up together, and of course neither of them are with the Braves anymore. When they came up together and signed together and started playing together, they figured that was going to be a two-headed monster for a decade. But it didn't work out as planned. 3-2. Francoeur foul tips it and stays alive, and that gets a piece of A.J. Ellis, thinking, gee, I'm glad I came back for that.
So you're at home and saying, I want to be a catcher. You're going, okay, I have the equipment, I have it in front of me, I'm really protected, and it still finds a way to miss the equipment.
And they call it the tools of ignorance. On 3-2, Francoeur to the right side, and a nice easy hop for Kendrick. That's going to do it. 1 run, 2 hits. Franco with the double gets the Phillies on the board. We go to the 4th. Dodgers and Brett Anderson, a 3-1 lead. Brought to you by the 2015 Jeep Cherokee with an EPA estimated 31 highway MPG. It's the perfect choice. Visit Jeep.com today. Joc Pederson, Alberto Callaspo, and A.J. Ellis will hit in the 4th inning. Dodgers 3 runs and 4 base hits. The Phillies 1 run and 4 base hits. Pederson, who walked 3 times and struck out last night, walked in his first plate appearance tonight. And for the Dodgers, this is their 107th game of the year, and for Pederson, his 104th, and it's really been a tale of 2 halves for Joc.
And you can see the numbers, the average and slugging gone way down. Talk about adjustments, and you know the pitchers are making adjustments on Joc, and he's going to have to make adjustments right back at him in order to be successful in this game. And you know, we heard Don Mattingly talk about Joc the other day. It's like, this is Joc this year. He's a home run, a walk, or a strikeout. And they know that.
More than 50% of his at-bats this year have resulted in a walk, a strikeout, or a home run.
And the tough thing for an organization, also hitting coach Mark McGwire, and as they talk about it, he's going to need to change something. We always say this game you adjust over the course of the season, but you don't really necessarily change a whole lot. Well, in order to change those numbers, and he even did that last offseason. We talked about him going into spring training, how he made a change from what he was doing last year to this year. Well, it's really hard to just change something in the middle of a season.
On 3-2, Harang delivers. And we'll do it again.
Can it be done? Yes, but it's not that easy. So they have to decide whether that's something they're going to try to do to address right now, or something they're just say we'll wait till the offseason to address.
So Pederson, 4th in the league in walks, 1st in the league in strikeouts. On 3-2. Stays alive and fouls it back.
When you're struggling, these are the ones that frustrate you, because you see the ball, your timing is on, you foul it back, but you're mechanically off just a hair that causes you not to be able to square that ball up. And you're going, am I ever going to see that pitch again?
Takes a walk. His 2nd of the night, 3 last night. So do 5 walks in his last 6 plate appearances tell you anything other than 5 walks in the last 6?
Oh, we know he's going to walk. We know that, but you know, a lot of times guys who walk not only have a good eye, and we've seen them, but they also foul off pitches, just like we saw the one before where he should have hit and he fouled off. Now he got to see another pitch and ends up taking it.
Callaspo drills it to the right side. That's going to be a base hit. Francoeur's got a great arm. And Pederson is going to test it, and he is out at third base. Well, you don't want to make the first out or the third out at third base. Pederson did. The Dodgers are thinking about the possibility of a replay request. And it looks like they decided against it.
You're right, Charlie. Don't first or third out, not at third, and you got to understand before you're out there where the strong arms are in the outfield. That's in your scouting report, and we know Francoeur has one. And not only was it strong on that throw, but accurate as well. Nice pick over there by Franco. No need to get a replay on that one. Obviously out.
Well, 2 mistakes. 1, trying to go first to third with nobody out, and 2, one of the best arms in the league in Francoeur. So it's 1 out and 1 on, and Ellis is the hitter. And there's a strike, 0-1. So a base running mistake for the rookie Pederson. Ellis walked in his first at bat. He takes low and outside. Brett Anderson is on deck. As Ellis fouls it off.
I was just thinking about that play, Charlie, getting thrown out at third, and a lot of people, some people back home might be thinking, well, you know, isn't your third base coach telling you whether to go or not? Hits behind you as you're running. No, that you're already determining on your own whether you're going or not. You get to decide that. You don't rely on your third base coach on that one, and that was all Joc's decision.
And the other X factor in the center field, Herrera tracks it down. The ball was pretty well hit.
Yes.
For Francoeur, the 4th assist of the season, the 125th assist of his career.
What goes into that is you're leading off first base. You know the arms out there, but you also take a peek at where they're playing, the right fielder, if he's in or not. So all of that goes into your thinking even before that ball's hit. And once it hits hard, and where it's hit, and recognizing it's going right at him, that's where you're like, you know what, I'm staying right here. I'm not going to risk it, because the odds are probably in his favor because of the tools he has out there in right field. The only time you look at Lorenzo is after you hold up in case he bobbled it or it goes by him. And then Lorenzo is telling you, come on over to third. He missed it.
Giants now a 3-0 lead, hitting in the top of the 4th in Atlanta. 0-2 to Anderson. hit into a double play in his first at bat. And that'll do it for the Dodgers in the top of the fourth. No runs, one hit, and one man left. Jeff Francoeur gunning down Joc Pederson. How when the Dodgers play the Nationals and pick up your Fernando Valenzuela pin, the fifth in the Cy Young Pin Collectors Series, presented by 76. For more information, go to Dodgers.com/promotion. Well, here's Ryan Howard to lead it off. Howard, 18 home runs and 60 runs batted in. When you think of Ryan Howard, that big, burly, left-handed hitting slugger, you think, all right, he probably pulls a lot of home runs here at Citizens Bank Park. Well, the fact of the matter is, he hits them everywhere. He has hit more home runs to left and left center field in his career than he has to right and right center. And in this home run hitter friendly ballpark, he has exploited the confines here quite a bit. Howard flied to left in his first at bat. Darren Ruff on deck. 2-1 from Anderson. Rolled slowly up the first base line. An easy play for Adrian Gonzalez. That'll bring up Darren Ruff. Ruff singled to left in his first at bat. Dodgers 3 runs and 5 hits. A 3-run home run for Yasiel Puig in the first. The Phillies 1 run and 4 base hits. Chopped foul. John Miserock is the third base coach for the Phillies. One ball and 1 strike to Darren Ruff. Two for 4 last night. Ruff from Omaha bounces to short, and Rollins throws a strike. Quickly 2 out and nobody on. And yet another ground ball. Freddie Galvis coming up. He bounced into a double play in his first at-bat. Galvis with 100 hits on the year. And it's no balls and a strike. 5 of those 100 hits have been home runs. One hopper, right to short, right to Rollins. Inning is over, and guess who's going to be leading it off for the Dodgers as we go to the top half of the 5th. It'll be Rollins and Kendrick and Gonzalez. 3-1 LA. And while his record is 5-11, in his 11 losses, the Phillies have scored 2 or fewer runs in 5 of those games. So it'll be Rollins, Kendrick, and Gonzalez to hit for the Dodgers here in the top half of the 5th. 3-run home run for Puig in the first, gave the Dodgers the lead, which they have held on to. It's 3-1. Rollins is flied to right and popped to short. And got a rousing ovation tonight as he stepped into the batter's box for the first time. 1 ball, 1 strike to Rollins. And it's under the knees, 2-1. Rollins .341 in his last 11 games. 3 home runs and 4 runs batted in. Now it's 3-1. Orang has walked 3 and struck out 1 to this point. Kendrick and then Gonzalez and Ethier if anybody gets on. Rollins takes a walk. So Orang gives up his 4th walk of the night. See what the Dodgers can do with a leadoff runner aboard. Fifth inning and their 3rd leadoff runner on base. Rollins 8 stolen bases, short lead. There he goes. Ground ball, base hit, right field. Perfectly executed hit and run. Boy, a couple of seasoned veterans on that play. Rollins was off and running. And Kendrick found the space, and the Dodgers have runners at the corners and nobody out.
And a lot of the times here, when you have two veteran guys like Howie Kendrick and Jimmy Rollins, you let them decide whether they want to hit and run on their own. They know the game. They know how they face a guy like Aaron Harang. They know the situation. And they're talking about it probably prior to that bat. Hey, if you get on, let's do it the first pitch, go. And I want to do a hit and run and execute it perfectly.
Runners at the corners for Adrian Gonzalez, who fouls it off, and it's 0-1.
And after that hit and run, Adrian, we talked about Aaron Harang, about looking for those pitches up in the zone. You know, last at bat or his single that Adrian got, it was that hanging curveball. You're looking for something like that again to try to drive in the air.
Instead of diving, stopped by Ryan Howard, robbing Gonzalez of a hit, but he gets an RBI as Rollins comes in to score. A spectacular play turned in by Ryan Howard. On the fielder's choice, Gonzalez is 62nd RBI of the year, and the Dodgers take a 4-1 lead.
He gets a breaking ball and he crushes this ball, and it was a tremendous play over there by Ryan Howard. And it's funny, as Adrian hits that ball, he also kind of goes down the line and glances back to see if the guy's able to score from third base. I'm sure Adrian's like, all right, you robbed me, but at least I got the guy in. That's first and foremost on your mind, is getting that RBI, driving him in.
So the Dodgers lead by 3 again. Ethier steps in. He swings and misses, 0-1. So Adrian Gonzalez now with 62 runs batted in. And Jimmy Rollins scored his 47th run of the year for the Dodgers. Oh, 0-1 to Ethier. No balls and 2 strikes. Ethier at 281. Gonzalez has given the Dodgers the 3-run lead. One ball, 2 strikes to Andre Ethier, with Yasiel Puig coming up next. And now Ruiz and Harang will have a chat. Four and a third innings in, and Harang's already thrown 85 pitches. Through 4 innings, by way of comparison, Brett Anderson has thrown 56. One and 2, they play Ethier as a pull hitter. The outfield is shifted over on a full-fledged shift in the infield, but Galvis, as you see, maybe 6 steps to the third base side of second as Ethier takes low. 2-2. Just as Harang was releasing the pitch, Galvis was sidestepping back toward his usual spot. And now
it's over there just trying to keep the runner close at second, letting him know.
And now heading back to where he was. And a line drive base hit into center field. By doing all that dancing, that kept Kendrick closer to the bag and perhaps kept him from scoring. Yeah. Yasiel Puig, first inning, set the tone and the table with a 3-run home run, his 8th of the year. And now he's got runners at the corners with 1 out.
And he should be thinking very similar to what Adrian Gonzalez was thinking at the time, with first and third, with nobody out, first and third with 1 out, looking for something he can get in the outfield.
Last night, the Dodgers were 2 for 12 with runners in scoring position. Tonight, 2 for 4. Puig takes inside and low. 1 ball and no strikes. Yasiel at 250. That was then, and this is now. Dodgers would leave 13 men on base last night. One ball and one strike. Puig is 6 for 8 in his meetings with Harang. And the 1-1. And of the 6 hits against Harang, single, double, triple home run. Jimmy Rollins scoring a run here in the 5th. The Dodgers lead 4-1. First and third, 1 and 2 to Puig. It's inside and low, 2 and 2. Joc Pederson on deck. Giants hitting in the top of the 5th in Atlanta, leading the Braves 3-0. Popped up. Hernandez makes the catch. Here's 2 out.
Yasiel gets those breaking balls. He saw him swing and miss, and talking about the adjustment he made on his first at bat, opening up that front step, that front foot, because that's what's been getting him, breaking balls away, swinging underneath them. And here's a fastball up in the zone, and frustrated with himself he didn't get on top of that.
So 2 out, and Joc Pederson coming up. Pederson, who walked 3 times last night and struck out, has walked twice tonight. .222 with 21 home runs, 43 runs batted in, first and third. And he pops it foul and out of play.
Charlie, you can almost guarantee it was going to be a big swing here by Joc Pederson, and such a big swing. His helmet falls off, and he just missed that ball. I mean, that was a breaking ball. His timing looked like he was on it, almost like he recognized it. It didn't break quite as much. That's why he gets underneath it and fouls it back.
Kendrick at third, Ethiers at first. And it's inside and low, 1-1. Are the Mets ever going to lose again? 4-0 they lead in Miami in the bottom of the 4th. Nationals lead the Diamondbacks 2-1. Washington hitting in the bottom of the 3rd in the nation's capital tonight. Harang on 1-1. Pederson takes up and in 2-1.
It's funny you said about the Mets. It seemed like when we were there and they made that trade for Kelly Johnson and Juan Uribe, like, there was different. Like, they all of a sudden, like, whoa, we got, we know we're struggling offensively. They're doing something to try to help our offense. It, like, rejuvenated them, and then they even did some in the trade deadline. At the trade deadline, they get Cespedes to say, okay, we're not stopping here. And now they're going, all right, we have the rotation. Now they believe they have the offense, and they are definitely going after people.
And Washington is wobbly at the moment. Mets lead the Nats by 1 game. Dodgers lead the Giants by 2. Pederson takes another walk. That's 5 walks given up by Harang, 3 of them to Pederson. The bases are loaded with 2 out, and Callaspo coming up. And Bob McClure, the pitching coach, he's going to go out and spend some time and buy some time for Hector Neris. Harang, you see, already at 97 pitches. And Callaspo, who's 1 for 2, is 6 for 15 against Harang in his career. Alan Porter, the home plate umpire, like the school principal, is breaking up all that noise in the playground. So Cayaspo's got a chance to bust this game open. His first at bat, he bounced to second base. That's Kendrick. And Ethier and Pederson. In his first at bat, Cayaspo took 8 pitches before he would ground out. He singled to right in his second at bat. And then he takes a strike. It's 0-1. A run in already here in the 5th. Dodgers lead by 3. One ball, one strike. If Cayaspo gets a hit here, Dodgers gets to talk about the principle of the 2-out RBI. They got themselves probably a 6-1 lead. And if he doesn't, the Phillies are still very much in this game. This is a big at bat.
It's a big at bat, definitely. No, one thing that the Dodgers did, at least they got that one back for Brett Anderson. So we talked about yesterday how you're allowing the Phillies to feel a part of the game. You know, yesterday the Dodgers had those opportunities once again, and they didn't capitalize on that. And we were talking about throughout the entire game, Charlie. I was like, all right, you're giving life a little bit to the Phillies that think they can come back here. But this isn't that bat where you feel like, okay, when a team that's been struggling all year long, that you might be able to really just kind of put them away a little bit here.
1-2 to Cayaspo with the bases loaded. 1 in, top half of the 5th. 4-1 Dodgers. Two and 2. For Cayaspo, this is his 19th start with the Dodgers in his 50th game. On 2 and 2. Cayaspo and Guerrero spending time at third base while Justin Turner heals from the infection in his leg. Guerrero struggled last night. Cayaspo has done well in his career against Harang. A time call. A.J. Ellis is on deck. Pitch to Cayaspo into center field, and there's Herrera, and that's going to do it. Dodgers come up with a run, couple of hits, and lead 3. After 4.5, they lead the Phillies 4-1. Nissan. Choose Nissan today for great offers on our most exciting lineup ever. Shop at ChooseNissan.com. And by DraftKings. Play daily fantasy baseball for free on DraftKings.com. Use promo code BLUECREW for free entry. Brett Anderson takes a 4-1 lead into the bottom half of the fifth inning. We saw Aaron Harang's last inning of work in the top half of the fifth as Jordan Danks is in the on-deck circle to pinch hit for Harang. Ruiz took a called third strike in his first at-bat. Pederson's got a long way to run, and he tracks it down in front of Yasiel Puig. Which was he more concerned about? The ball or Puig?
Definitely Puig. Look, we've seen Joc Pederson all year long. The way he gets a great jump, the way he gets a read off the bat. Looked like he had this one all the way. Picks his spot, and then he's like, I better put that hand up to see Yasiel, and hopefully he sees it and hears me yell, I got it. Yeah, and then makes the play.
So Harang's night is done. Danks just recalled the other day. Trying to check his swing. So Harang goes 5 innings. Gives up 4 earned runs and 7 hits. Walked 5 and struck out 1. For 104 pitches, 63 for strikes. It's 1 and 2 to Danks. The lanky lefty takes low. Now the count is full. Hector Neris continues to warm. Danks is down on strikes. That's 4 strikeouts for Anderson. And there's 2 out.
He comes with a good breaking ball, especially 3-2. As a hitter, you're going up there, you're a pinch hitter. You're like, all right, he doesn't want to walk me here. He's going to come at me with a fastball. Makes it look like a strike. Thinking a fastball. Breaking away. Gets a swing and miss. Nice pitch by Brett Anderson.
So 2 out. And here's Cesar Hernandez. 1 for 2, an infield hit. 4 runs, 7 hits for the Dodgers, a run and 4 hits for the Phillies. I guess the best way to describe Anderson's performance tonight is methodical. He's just gets the ball back. He's ready to go. He works quickly.
So quick. I was just thinking about what Kelly Tennant was talking about. Interviewing guys. What's impressed you about him? If I'm on this team, what's impressed me is his speed. It's great as an infielder.
Off the glove of Adrian Gonzalez. That doesn't happen often. So Hernandez is aboard with 2 out.
Well, you said it, Charlie. This does not happen too often. Ball hit hard, sharply over there to Adrian Gonzalez. That last hop, that last one didn't come up for him. It kind of stayed down. That's the reason why he missed it. But there's no question about it. You ask Adrian, he'd tell you, no, I should have that play. Just unfortunate that it goes under his glove.
His 4th error of the year. So with 2 out, Odubel Herrera. And Anderson has one of the best moves in the league. Hernandez has 15 stolen bases in 19 tries, but Anderson has 6 pickoffs. Ellis is thrown out 6 of 15. There goes the runner. Throw to second base, and he beat it.
Ellis had no chance. He stole that one off Anderson, and it was just a guess. He went very first move. He thought, okay, I just saw a good move by Brett Anderson on the pitch before. So he's not going to double up on the move. So he just went first move, and it was a breaking ball. So he had everything working in his favor. He steals it easily.
Jeff Kellogg, the second base umpire, perfectly positioned. 1 ball, no strikes to Herrera. 0 for 2, got a board on a fielder's choice and scored a run. So the 3 young guys at the top of the lineup, Hernandez, Herrera, and Franco, give this Phillies team an entirely new look. The 2-0. Now 3 balls and no strikes. And Franco, the pick of the litter, on deck. Franco with the grand slam last night has doubled in a run and 2 at-bats tonight. A 4-pitch walk, the first one given up by Anderson all night.
Go back to that first inning. 2-out error by the Dodgers, and then they had first and second as well, and he was able to leave them stranded. But now here you got once again after that error, first and second, and it touched on it last night. Franco coming up with that big grand slam, but we were talking about just a little while ago, Charlie, about allowing the Phillies to get back in this game, where that Callaspo at bat would have been big if he was able to come through with that 2-out RBI. And here's a situation where the Phillies can try to get back into this.
Callaspo could not deliver with the bases loaded. Now with 2 out and 2 on, let's see what Franco can do. You saw him hit that grand slam last night off Joel Peralta. Anderson delivers a strike, and it's 0-1.
See Franco not liking that pitch. I've seen a few guys not like the high strike that's being called today by Alan Porter.
And a pop-up. That's Kendrick.
That's a big
Anderson
pitch.
Gets out of it. No runs, no hits, a walk and an error. 2 men left, and we'll go to the 6th. Anderson and the Dodgers, 4-1. There's 4 runs, 7 hits, and 2 errors. And the Phillies have run 4 hits and no errors. The pitcher is Hector Neris, making his 10th appearance. 13 strikeouts in 11 2/3 innings. After Aaron Harang went 5 innings tonight and gave up 4 runs and 7 base hits. A.J. Ellis and Brett Anderson, then Jimmy Rollins to bat here in the 6th inning. Ellis has walked and flied to center. balls and a strike. A.J. off the disabled list. Bruised his knee. There is at 94 miles an hour out of the Dominican Republic. He's 25. Made one appearance at the big league level last year. 6'2", about 215. Giants 3-0. Atlanta hitting in the bottom of the 6th. Mets 7-0 in Miami. And the Nationals with a 2-1 lead. Arizona hitting in the top half of the 5th at Nationals Park. Two and 2 to A.J. Ellis. Dodgers and Phillies wrap it up tomorrow. And it's a day game. We'll be on the air about 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific time with Zach Greinke going against David Buchanan. After the game, the Dodgers fly across the state for a weekend series with the Pirates. Oh, that hurts.
Took a foul ball behind the plate off his leg, and now he's going, all right, well, one thing is catching, you know you're going to take those, but now you have to do it to yourself while you're at the plate. You take one off.
Two and 2. A.J. with a couple of home runs. Grounded foul.
I'm chuckling because as a hitter you're going, I just fouled it. Your foot is still throbbing. It hurts. And then he throws you another sinker, and you know that's coming too. And you're just so happy you didn't double up right there, but you're going, gosh, that's when you don't like pitchers to begin with. Now you really don't like them.
And if you were a pitcher, do exactly what
Of course you would.
But you're not, so you don't like them. 2 and 2 to Ellis, beginning the 6th inning. And naturally, he's got to sprint it out. Barehanded play, and gets him by a step. Nicely done by Michael Franco. What can't this kid do? It's worthy of an Arco top-tier play.
Franco coming in, barehanding it. Gosh, and just an accurate throw with some velocity behind it, showing off the athleticism, and AJ's going, great. I fouled it off. Now I have to run. That's just, it's not fair.
So there's 1 out and nobody on, and 1 ball and no strikes to Brett Anderson, who is 0 for 2. Well, Franco's got some big shoes to fill over at third base. Michael Jack Schmidt, that play was somewhat reminiscent of Schmidt in his heyday. People forget what a terrific defender Schmidt was above and beyond his great offensive prowess.
I think of Scott Rowland.
Michael Jack.
You know, we're
Was he the greatest third baseman who ever played? He may not be in a class by himself, but it sure don't take long to call the roll. He could hit him, and he could pick him.
Look at this one. Oh, all right. Didn't we just see that by Franco? No, it didn't go off the pitcher, but it was a bare hand throwing while it seems like you're falling forward and make the play.
And Schmidt hit under 200 in his rookie year.
He was just setting up the league.
Yeah. Ohio University. So Rollins, this is the first time he's come to the plate in this series where he hasn't gotten a standing ovation. Now he's on the other side.
It's official.
Yeah. And he takes a 4-pitch walk. Second walk for Rollins tonight. Brings up Howie Kendrick. And Kendrick is 2 for 3. Stepping in at 288. 2 hits and a run scored.
You got Ruiz running out there, the Neris, for a couple reasons. I mean, that's the 5th straight ball he's thrown. And also to let him know that just keep an eye over there, Jimmy Rollins, because Jimmy kind of bluffed, or was not necessarily bluffed, but he looked like he was trying to get a good jump over there to possibly steal the bag.
And after he walked in the 5th inning, a perfectly executed hit and run by Kendrick. So Rollins still has the wheels.
That's the throw over there. there were 2 messages coming from Ruiz on that visit.
Adrian Gonzalez on deck. Rollins extending the lead ever so slightly, not going unnoticed by Neris. On 1 ball and no strikes to Kendrick. Now they're getting preoccupied by Rollins.
See if Rollins tries possibly kind of that walking lead. A lot of times as a base stealer, you're thinking, all right, you're going to come over 3 times. You're really going to come over 4. So you try to see if you can kind of get a walking lead or a little advantage and try to go.
Like that. And then he just stopped at the last instant. Took about 4 steps towards second base.
He was going. He was going. He was like, he just didn't like the jump he got. Whether he may have slipped a little bit, whatever he felt, but he put on the brakes.
Not going this time, and Kendrick has to get out of the way. Just watching Jimmy Rollins over there with Ryan Howard, teammates for a decade. They're having a good time. Howard's got about a foot on him. Slow roller up the third base line, and it's going to roll foul. Kendrick would have had that one beat. Not even Mike Schmidt, the 3-time MVP and 10-time Gold Glover, could have made that play. Probably. And over there at first base, Rollins, Ryan Howard, each MVP in their day with those great Phillies teams. There they are, and here's the 2-2 upcoming from Hector Neris to Howie Kendrick. Up the middle, into center field for a base hit. Rollins will hold. So the Dodgers will have first and second for Adrian Gonzalez. Meanwhile, Kendrick with his 3rd hit of the night. Ryan Howard's going over to join the conversation with Chooch, with the young right-hander.
We still trying to, get on the same page with Neris, recognizing this is Adrian Gonzalez. Let's get on the same page. Man on second. Let's get the signs. Let's just get everything squared away.
So Gonzalez, 1 for 3, an RBI and a run scored. Dodgers left the bases loaded in the 5th. They've got 2 on and 2 out here in the 6th. Neris taking all sorts of time. In fact, too much time. So Gonzalez with 2 on and 2 out. 21 home runs, 62 runs batted in. 295 on the year. Galvis trying to keep Rollins close at second base. One ball, no strikes to Adrian Gonzalez. Jimmy Rollins has Neris talking to himself.
Yeah, he does. I'll tell you, it's interesting is obviously they're aware of Jimmy and they know he likes to steal, but it wouldn't be wise for Jimmy to steal here. You got 2 outs and you have your RBI guy up at the plate. Get a good secondary so you can score on a base hit, but I wouldn't think about stealing, especially when it's a lefty and it's an easier throw for the catcher to third base.
1 ball and 1 strike to Adrian Gonzalez.
Neris has a fastball, he has a slider, and he has a split finger. And the splitter looks like a fastball, and bottom falls out.
A ball and a strike and 2 out. 1 and 2. So Adrian Gonzalez, runners in scoring position this year, hitting .300. The 1-2 is 2 balls and 2 strikes. Andre Ethier on deck.
Once again, Ruiz out there. It's a big pitch, 2-2. He's also possibly maybe change the signs. Let's maybe I don't want to give a sign just in case after seeing so many pitches if Jimmy Rollins happens to be picking him up and relaying him to Adrian Gonzalez.
Well, you got a couple of seasoned veterans and Rollins in second and Gonzalez at the plate. 2 on, 2 out, the 2-2. Now it's 3 and 2. So Rollins from second and Kendrick from first will get the head start on Neris's 27th pitch of the inning. Set at the belt. There they go. Here it comes. All 4 and the bases are loaded. It'll be Andre Ethier's turn. And Ethier 2 for 3 tonight. Here we are with 2 out in the 6th inning, and Bob McClure is going to come out and talk with his young pitcher. It's the 15th time a Dodger has reached base tonight. 8 hits and 7 walks. And to this point, just 4 runs.
We talked about it last inning, Charlie. We hit those 2 out RBIs. You had Callasco coming up with the bases loaded, and how that could be a big at bat to really try to put away the team. And well, same situation right here. Andre Ethier has that opportunity as well. If he can come up with a big hit, it would be a big, huge hit for the Dodgers.
Last 3 innings, the Phillies have had their backs to the ropes, but the Dodgers have not yet been able to deal a knockout punch. So 14 strikes, 13 balls. And he's still not done with his first inning of relief. Ethier 271 with runners in scoring position. Plus, he had that walk-off home run on Sunday, and he takes low and outside. 1 ball, no strikes. This is the 10th time Ethier's come to bat with the bases loaded. He has 3 hits. Now we'll see how it all plays out. Them's the numbers. And here's the pitch. 2-0.
This is as a hitter, when this is where I want to be in the hitter's count, bases loaded, and you're battling with yourself, really trying to tell yourself, go, okay, just stay within yourself, don't get too big, make sure it's a good pitch you can handle.
The 2-0 to Ethier. Knocks the mask off Ruiz.
Talked about all those things going through your mind, and that was the fastball. It was right there down the middle. Oh. And you just miss it. You foul it straight back. Oh.
Ruiz is saying, what do you mean he just missed it? He took it right off. Oh.
May not leave a mark, but it's going to leave you with a headache.
Leave you with a souvenir you can live without. 2 balls and a strike. Ethier has a chance to break the game open. And at the moment, the Philly bullpen is quiet as a shadow. On 2-1. 2 balls and 2 strikes. A slider.
Good pitch by Neris. That ball started off the same plane as where the fastball started off the pitch before that he swung at. Andre thinking he was doubling up, and he swings at that one.
Rollins, Kendrick, and Gonzalez, the base runners, with 2 out and a 2-2 count to Ethier. Strike 3. So the Dodgers, for the 2nd consecutive inning, leave the bases loaded. And after 5.5, they lead 4-1. Perfect game against the Cubs and became the first pitcher in Major League history to throw 4 no-hitters. A week from tomorrow night, August the 13th, the first 40,000 fans in attendance receive this Sandy Koufax bobblehead presented by United Healthcare. For tickets, go to Dodgers.com/promotions. Well, the Dodgers try to mix and match while Justin Turner remains sidelined over at third base, as this is Francoeur leading off here in the bottom half of the 6th, taking the ball outside. Kelly. Francoeur bounces to third. All appropriate. Callasbo throws out Francoeur. Kelly, as we were talking about mixing and matching at third base while Turner is out.
Well, guys, I talked to Don Mattingly earlier, and he said, we're just trying to hold down the fort at third base until Justin gets back. He's planning to be back the second game the team is back in LA. He said, we're going to try and mix and match it, though, with Guerrero, Callaspo. He said Kike Hernandez may even make an appearance at third base just to see what that looks like, Charlie.
All righty, so Callaspo throws out Frank Gore. Ryan Howard stepping in, and the Dodgers are going to put the big shift on. There's Guerrero, who started at third base last night. Howard is 0 for 2. Has flied to left and bounced to first. And a breaking ball down and away. 1 ball and no strikes. Another frustrating night at the plate for the Dodgers. For the first 15 innings of this series, last night and tonight, they've left 22 men on base. 13 last night and 9 so far tonight, including the bases loaded in the 5th and 6th innings. Yet they hold a 4-1 lead, but they're allowing the Phillies to linger as they did last night.
Charlie, this one doesn't feel like they're in control of this game. You know, there are some times where there's a 3-run lead and you see how the game's going. You're like, you know what, they feel like they're in control. You can feel that momentum, or there's that confidence, but this one doesn't feel that way just yet.
On 2-2 to Howard, he fouls it back. Ryan Howard in his career 360 home runs, including the postseason. That's the most of any Philly left-handed hitter in history. And he rolls it foul past Juan Samuel. Next on the list, Chuck Klein and Chase Utley. Of course, Mike Schmidt is the all-time Philly home run hitter. And did he go around? Yep. Down on strikes. 0 for 3 tonight is Howard. And against lefties this year, he's hitting 146. For Anderson, that is his 5th strikeout.
Good breaking ball by Brett Anderson. See, we were talking about the breaking ball from Neris on Andre Ethier, looking like a fastball, starting off in the fastball plane and zone, and then the bottom falling out of it. Same type of pitch by Anderson.
Meanwhile, Anderson, a methodical, efficient performance tonight. 5 strikeouts, 1 walk. 1 ball, 1 strike to Ruff, who has 1 of the 4 Philadelphia hits. The 1-1. Meanwhile, the Dodger rotation with Kershaw and Greinke and Anderson and Latos and Wood's performance last night, 1 through 5. They are solid from top to bottom. Holsinger did a fine job when he was here, and Frias did what he could do when he was here. But right now, you get a sense that this rotation from top to bottom is as strong as it's been in a long time. Here's a 3-1. And for Anderson, his 2nd walk of the game, a 2-out walk to Ruff, brings up Freddie Galvis.
Well, they obviously, everybody was talking about it. Were they going to address the rotation and come to a trade deadline? And that's what they did, Charlie. And a lot of people are going, are they going to go after those big time guys? And instead, they go after Alex Wood.
Latos.
They get Matt Latos, and you know, it's one as an organization. They're going, okay, yeah, you see Price, Hamels, these guys available, but at what cost for your future? And you're going, do I need an ace when I have 2 already on my staff?
And that's the issue that the front office has to deal with. Okay, are we playing for the final 60 or so games in the regular season? We're playing for 11 wins in October. Here's the 1-1. And while rebuilding a franchise and a farm system that had been decaying over the past few years. So you have short-term and long-term decisions to make. The 2-1 is a toss over to first base.
You know, and they also wanted to get some help in the bullpen, so they were able to get Avilan and Johnson as well. So It's amazing. They are on the phone 24/7, and if not on the phone, talking about.
Bunted back to the box. Anderson has time to throw out Galvis, and that'll end the inning. No runs, no hits, a walk and a man left, and we will go to the 7th. Dodgers 4-1. Matinee tomorrow. Greinke and Buchanan over the weekend in Pittsburgh. Friday, Kershaw and Garrett Cole. Saturday, Matt Latos, Francisco Liriano. Sunday, it's a Sunday night game on ESPN. Alex Wood and Charlie Morton. And then a long journey back to Dodger Stadium, where the Nationals will be awaiting on Monday night. By the looks of it, the Dodgers are going to have to take care of their own business tonight, with the Giants leading the Braves 6-0, playing in the 7th inning in Atlanta. And the Mets now 7-0 over the Marlins in the 7th inning in Florida. Washington a 2-1 lead over the Diamondbacks. Nats are hitting in the bottom of the 5th in D.C. And here is Yasiel Puig, a 3-run home run in the 1st inning. Dodgers lead 4-1. Big swing, fouls it back. It's 0-1. Neris threw 32 pitches in the 6th inning, and the Dodgers left the bases loaded. Might it be the end of Brett Anderson's night? He's thrown 92 through 6. Joc Pederson on deck. Callaspo to follow. Pedro Baez warming in the Dodger pen. There he is with Chuck Krim, bullpen coach, standing right behind him. One ball and 2 strikes to Yasiel Puig. Now with 8 home runs and 29 runs batted in. What's Puig doing lately?
Well, we already showed the difference with his front foot, how it's opened up. He still gets really long with his swing. And with him being long, you see him kind of get under some pitches. That first pitch was a pitch that, I talked about. Sometimes you get one pitch in that bat, and he fouled it straight back. But I do like where his feet are now with his front foot open. So that's something to build on.
The 2-2. into the hole and into left field for a base hit. So Puig is 2 for 4.
You know, the one thing for Yasiel, for me, and I know Mark McGwire has been talking to him and working with him on, we already seen the adjustment, but he's still, when he gets long, look how far his arms just kind of cast away from his body when he's out in front. You notice how he's almost like reaching for that ball in the outer half? You know, when Yasiel first came up, we saw him drive a lot of balls to right field. And now, with his front foot open, he's got to get back to reminding himself to drive the ball to right field. And if he does that, then the ball will travel a little more rather than getting everything out in front so much and having to reach. And that's when I think he'll really just start taking off.
7th inning, and the Dodgers have had their leadoff man on 4 times. Pederson with a fly ball to center field. It's going to stay in the park for Herrera. Up to the minute, the Dodgers by 2. The Padres and D-backs 8.5 back. Colorado won today, and San Francisco is leading in Atlanta 6-0. Braves hitting in the bottom of the 7th. Dodgers trying to go to the postseason for the first time in history 3 years in a row. There's a strike, and it's 0-1. Callaspo 1 for 3. On the year 228, 250 with the Dodgers. Making his 19th start. And he loops one into center field for a hit. Puig will hold at second base. Bobbled momentarily.
Callaspo, we talked about when he came over to the Dodgers. He doesn't strike out a whole lot, really difficult to strike out, but here's a ball just on the outer half. And we even have us when we talk about, oh, he doesn't do too much with the ball. He didn't get too big. Well, yeah, he didn't fly open. There's a ball that starts off, it's tailing away from him, and he just stays on there. And it wasn't like you didn't see him really try to muscle up, take a huge swing. He just like, you know what, I'm going to barrel this ball up, take it the other way, and get my hit.
Now A.J. Ellis, double barrel action in the Philly bullpen. Arujo and Hinojosa. And the Dodgers, who left the bases loaded in the 5th and the bases loaded in the 6th, have first and second and 1 out here in the 7th. So certainly the Dodgers have had their chances to score a lot more than the 4 that they have to this point. 3 of the 4 came in on the home run by Puig in the 1st. Yasiel leads from second base and Callaspo from first. No balls and 2 strikes. That's Carl Crawford in the on-deck circle, and so Brett Anderson's night is apparently done. After 6 innings, 1 run and 4 hits, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, 92 pitches, 57 for strikes. On 0-2. That other lefty is going to pitch Friday. And another great pitching matchup with Garrett Cole. Cole out of Newport Beach and UCLA. And the 0-2. Ellis down on strikes. Second strikeout for Neris. And the Dodgers offense continues to tease. Now can Crawford cash in a couple of base runners? Carl missed 75 games with the oblique. He didn't just pull it, he tore it off the bone. And on his 34th birthday, let's see if he can give himself a present. Had a pinch hit double last night in the 8th. In 15 games against the Phillies in his career, hitting .321. And takes a strike.
And I liked that pinch hit double he had. Just his swing, the way he stayed on that ball, going the other way, driving it to left field. It was really pretty.
Puig leads at second. Callaspo's at first. Did he check his swing? Yep. Brian O'Nora, third base umpire. Rollins is on deck. Crawford has 1 home run and 4 runs batted in on his abbreviated season. This is just his 65th at bat. Now it's 3-1. Well, they loaded the bases in the 5th, loaded the bases in the 6th.
Another guy in scoring position here. Hitters count.
We've seen this movie.
Yes.
And now the bases are loaded for the 3rd consecutive inning. And Jimmy Rollins will come up. Of course, it was the return of Jimmy Rollins. That was the prevailing story last night. And Philly fans are not quite sure how to respond to the fact that Rollins is coming up with the bases loaded and 2 out.
Well, Jimmy Rollins has an opportunity to have them boo him right now, so I hope they do, because that means he comes through right now, they'd be unhappy.
Then he's back. In the dirt, and now coming home is Puig, and he is deader than Julius Caesar. The ball didn't get past Ruiz far enough. Puig tried to score and comes up empty. The Dodgers leave 2. Seventh inning stretch. Dodgers 4-1. Well, this has been a night of coulda, woulda, shouldas for the Dodgers. They left the bases loaded in the 5th and 6th. And Puig on a ball that gets past Ruiz, but not far enough.
No, and you know what helped Ruiz there was the fact that the ball hit the umpire. It didn't hit Ruiz. It was going by him, and that's what Yasiel looked like he read. But then it hits the umpire, and it had the spin where the ball didn't keep going to the backstop.
And so Ruiz leads it off. And if you watch that play, Jimmy Rollins in the batter's box put his hand up, telling Puig, don't go, don't go.
I mean, we saw from that angle, Puig can see the play in front of him. It's not like he lost the ball. So that's where you have to make sure it's by him.
Pedro Baez, his 30th appearance. 0-2 to Ruiz. Way outside. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
A ball has to be like that, and then you go.
Watch Jimmy Rollins at the plate. Stay.
Yeah, he sees the ball, and that gives him plenty of time to hold up, but he just kept going.
So the Dodgers with 2 base running blunders tonight. 1 by Puig and 1 by Pederson. And now it's 2-2. Ruiz tonight has struck out and flied to center. So while the Dodgers lead 4-1, uncharacteristically they've made 2 errors. Dodgers have made fewer errors than any other team in the league as Baez strikes out Ruiz. And 2 base running errors. And they've left, what, 6, 8, 10 men on base already.
As a whole, this hasn't been a very pretty game by the Dodgers.
Well, we've talked about how good the starters have been all year, really. But the last 27 games, the Dodger bullpen ERA 6.61, dead last. Major League Baseball.
I just talked about this game hasn't been very pretty for the Dodgers. Well, those numbers for the bullpen aren't pretty either, Charlie. So once again, we talked about at the trade deadline them trying to address helping the starting rotation, and they also try to address the bullpen too by getting Jim Johnson and Luis Avilan as well.
Johnson and Howell warming up currently. Cody Ashe is pinch hitting. That's Avilan on the left and Nicasio. 1 ball, 1 strike. 4 runs, 10 hits for the Dodgers. And they've left 10 men on base. They left 13 last night.
If the Dodgers are able to pull this one out, Charlie, this is one when you go back after the game and you're like, glad we won, but it, you're not saying good game. You're going, gosh, we could have played so much better than what we did.
This is not a Rembrandt.
Right.
Here's the 2-1. Ashe swings and misses. Actually, 11 men have been left on base. 26,197 watching. About 29,000 last night. Here's the 2-2. We are so spoiled at Dodger Stadium. They average almost 48,000 a night. But a lot of Dodger fans in attendance. Eighth inning in Atlanta. The Giants lead the Braves 6-1. 2-2. Baez to Ashe, and he is done. So Baez comes in and strikes out the first 2 batters he faces here in the 7th. And here's Cesar Hernandez. He's 1 for 3. Had a couple of hits last night. Hitting .282, a home run and 24 runs batted in. Has great speed. He stole his 16th base of the year tonight. A slider at 87. When he came in and took over for the injured Chase Utley, it didn't take long for Ruben Amaro, the general manager, to say, you know, he's our second baseman from now on. Utley is in the process of rehabbing. Sometimes it's cold business. And we were raising the question earlier. He's rehabbing now. Utley is. But for what team? And a ground ball to second base. Boy, can he run. Very close play on a slow roller to second. Baez retires aside in order, striking out 2. We'll go to the 8th. It'll be Rollins and Kendrick and Gonzalez coming up. Dodgers 4-1. For a limited time, try the new Portobello Mushroom Buttery Jack with melted garlic herb butter. And by Flex Alert. This summer, the power is in your hands. Go to flexalert.org. Elvis is in the building. Elvis Araujo, his 31st appearance out of Venezuela. Here at about 3.5. 28 innings, 26 strikeouts, but he has walked a bunch.
He comes at you with a fastball that hovers around 94 miles an hour. He's got a hard slider and a good changeup.
And Jimmy Rollins was left standing at the altar on a pitch that got past Ruiz with the bases loaded, 2 out of the 7th. And Puig would be DOA at the plate. Tried to retreat to third and he'd be tagged out. So Rollins takes high and away, 1 ball, no strikes. Jimmy 0 for 2, 2 walks and a run scored. Kendrick, Gonzalez, and if anybody gets on, Ethier. At 91, 1 ball and 1 strike. Arizona's overtaken the Nationals 4-2 in the top of the 6th. The Mets lead the Marlins 7-0 in the 8th. So if those scores end up as they are, the Mets will have a 2-game lead on the Nationals. The 2-1. Rollins takes high 3-1. Elvis Araujo. He's 24 and slender, 6'6". The short. Galvis picks it up and throws out Rollins. Now have a look at the T-Mobile Data Strong fan photo of the game. Tweet your photo with the hashtag SNLA Data Strong Fan for a chance to be shown in an upcoming telecast. Brought to you by T-Mobile. Hello, Bobby. Howie Kendrick 3 for 4 tonight, stepping in. Kendrick at 290. Fouls it back, and it's 0-1. Gonzalez on deck. Jim Johnson continues to warm in the Dodger bullpen as Kendrick fouls it back. You would think on paper at 9:38 on Wednesday night, August the 5th, that ideally in the back of Don Mattingly's head, Baez in the 7th, Johnson in the 8th, and Jansen in the 9th. Baez held up his end of the bargain in the 7th. We'll see what Johnson does in the 8th as Kendrick lines to center, 2 out. Subject to change without warning.
Right. And, on paper, it sounds good, Charlie.
Well, we'll see. Again, the bullpen has been an issue since July. They're still trying to navigate their way to the 9th inning. Gonzalez 1 for 3, a run scored and an RBI at 295 with 21 home runs and 62 runs batted in. Ethier is on deck. Nothing in 2. The Phillies 2, 3, and 4 hitters will bat in the 8th. Herrera, Franco, and Francoeur. And if anybody gets on, Ryan Howard. And Howard hitting under $150 against lefties. Wonder if Howell or Avilon will get up when the bottom of the 8th begins. 1-2 to Gonzalez. Avery takes low, and it's 2-2.
Both Ruiz and Araujo thought that was strike 3 on Gonzalez. As we have a look here, catches that corner. That was a perfect pitcher's pitch there.
Araujo's a little bit shorter, but it reminds me of Graham Lloyd out there. His long legs, lefty, as the Aussie Lloyd was. The mechanics are very similar.
Tall on the hill, presence throwing down, downward.
Graham's still very involved in Australian baseball. The 2-2. Well hit to left, but slicing foul. This will be the 8th pitch for Gonzalez in this at bat. 2 out and nobody on. in the 8th inning. Well, there'll be a 9th. Diamondbacks now lead the Nationals 5-2. Washington hitting in the bottom of the 6th. Giants 6-1. Atlanta hitting in the bottom of the 8th. The 2-2. Now the count is full. "17 pitches thrown by Araujo and 9 of them to Gonzalez. And this will be the 10th. Into short left. Rough. And ready. No runs, no hits, no errors, and nobody left. We go to the bottom of the 8th. Herrera, Franco, and Francoeur coming up. Dodgers 4-1. Off on the right foot with a 3-run home run to left in the first. Franco with a grand slam last night, a RBI double in the third, and Brett Anderson very solid in his 6 innings. Anderson threw 92 pitches, 57 for strikes. Jim Johnson now on in relief for the Dodgers after Baez pitched a perfect 7th inning, striking out 2.
Baez looked really sharp that last inning. Had some life on his fastball, good movement on his pitches, and now it's up to Johnson to have a shutdown inning here as well.
In his 10th big league season, pitched in Baltimore, Oakland, Detroit, and Atlanta. 6'6" and 240. Jim Johnson from Johnson City, New York. Odubel Herrera leading it off in the bottom of the 8th. Herrera against Anderson tonight was 1 for 2, a walk and a run scored. Dodgers 4 runs and 10 hits. Johnson's first pitch is low and inside, 1 ball and no strikes. Franco, a double and 3 at-bats on deck. And there's a strike. 1 ball, 1 strike. In 2012 and then again in 2013, Jim Johnson led the American League in saves. Sliced foul. That was in Baltimore. So Johnson pitching the 8th. 1-2. Inside and low 2-2. Johnson's ERA in Atlanta was 2.25. And he, like tonight's starter Anderson, is primarily a ground ball pitcher. 23-year-old Odubel Herrera. Once Ben Revere was traded. Center field became Herrera's position. The 2-2.
Oh, good pitch right there by Jim Johnson in the inner half. Looks like it's a ball. And he tried to get that tailing fastball to catch the inside corner right there. Oh, just misses. Just the movement on that ball. Wow.
3-2. Chopper over the middle and into center field for a base hit. So the Phillies have a leadoff runner here in the 8th.
Interesting here, Charlie. You got Jim Johnson. You talked about it. 7th, 8th, and 9th. Your hope. It says Britton there going in. You got Howard over there. If he comes up, maybe men on. You wonder if we have lefty over there in the bullpen. Maybe have one for him. But you have Darren Ruff behind him who hits lefties well. But at least have someone up to see in case Jim Johnson gets in trouble. But no one up right now in the bullpen.
Not yet. Franco 1 for 3. Swings and misses late at a 95-mile-an-hour fastball.
He doesn't get cheated. We see young guys on the Dodgers who swing and don't get cheated either.
The 0-1 is low. The reason we're raising the question about a left-hander in the bullpen, Ryan Howard's hitting about $140 against left-handed pitching. Another runner gets on and Howard comes up. He's the potential tying run at the plate. 2-1. Johnson on Sunday in his first inning with the Dodgers gave up a home run to Cole Calhoun. Now it's 2-2. So the Dodgers have Howell and Avilon in the bullpen. Howard against Avilon is 1 for 14, 7 strikeouts. So it may be a moot point if Johnson can get Franco and Francoeur. And he misses inside, and that works the count full to 3-2. Francoeur tonight is 1 for 3. Dodgers with a tenuous 4-1 lead, and Francoeur is not going to go quietly into this good night. Franco with the big grand slam last night. Three and 2. Franco fouls this one off. Seven pitches in this at-bat. Herrera single to center on a 3-2 pitch to lead off the inning.
was hit hard, Charlie. Captain Obvious over here for you.
Can we get a second opinion? No, not really. But meanwhile, you get a sense that Franco's got Johnson in his sights. But that, it's a great equalizer. A slider, a breaking ball that just freezes Franco like a side of beef. Wow.
What a pitch after that foul ball that's hit so hard. And you're in a 3-2 count. You see Franco obviously not expecting the breaking ball, but a perfect breaking ball by Johnson. And Franco just knew it. You see him just kind of buckle and go, yeah, wow, I'm taking it in.
He had the look on his face like, what do you expect me to do? That's one out. That was a big one, too. Frank Coeur with a fly ball to left field and deep. Ethier going back, runs out of room. A 2-run home run for Frank Coeur. And now the Phillies are back to within one. It is 4-3. Second home run Johnson has given up in as many outings.
Well, Frank Coeur didn't wait around at all. Gets a fastball up in the zone and gets on top of it. And he crushes that ball. A mistake up in the zone. Big league hitters are going to capitalize.
Now it's a one-run game as Ryan Howard steps in. Breaking ball for a strike. So the Indiana Jones rickety bridge to the ninth continues to creak. Howard is flied to left, bounced to first, and has been struck out. Fouls it out of play, 0-2.
And Charlie, we were talking about it, how this game still didn't just feel like the Dodgers had it in control. It wasn't very comfortable, just like yesterday. There are opportunities for the Dodgers that they're unable to capitalize, and it just giving the Phillies just breathing room and a little bit of life to try to get back into this ball game.
Any number of opportunities to deal the knockout punch, they weren't able to. Dodgers, as mentioned, left to this point 11 men on base. Last night 13. Last night they allowed the Phillies to linger, and Franco hit that grand slam in the seventh. One and two. Howard 0 for 2 in his career against Johnson. And now the 1-2. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Next pitch for Johnson, already his 23rd. 1 out, 2 in, bottom of the 8th. Dodgers 4-3. Now 3-2. Dodger bullpen continues to be quiet. On 3-2. Call strike 3.
He threw that pitch to Herrera. And it was just off the plate. This one was beautiful, where it looks like it's a ball in the inner half of a lefty. He gives up on it, and you just see the tail of that fastball come back and catch the plate for a strike.
So now 2 out. Johnson has faced 4 batters. 3 of them have had full counts. And it's a strike, 0-1 to Darren Ruff. 1 for 2 and a walk. Ball and 1 strike. Ruff has faced Johnson once and doubled against him. 2 balls and a strike. Dodger hitters in the 9th will be Ethier, Puig, and Pederson. Strike. 2 balls and 2 strikes are in the bottom of the 8th. In the top of the 9th in Atlanta, the Giants are beating up on the Braves 6-1. The 2-2 up and in 3-2. Last licks for the Marlins in Miami. Mets 8-1. And the D-backs lead the Nationals 5-2 in the top of the 7th. This is now the 4th full count. 5 batters, 4 full counts for Johnson. His 30th pitch. And we'll do it again. By the length of this inning and the pressure pitches that Johnson has had to throw in a game tomorrow at 1 o'clock, not going to see him tomorrow. Here's a 3-2. Fouled off to the right and out of play.
And when Orioles here, we always talk about Oriole. He always says it's around that 24th pitch is where they usually is that cutoff where they say, all right, you're getting rest if you go over that 24 pitch mark.
That's your curfew.
Yep.
Comebacker off the glove of Johnson. Kendrick will throw out Ruff, and that'll end the inning. A Herrera single, a 2-run home run for Jeff Francoeur has brought the Phillies to within 1 with Ethier, Puig, and Pederson ready to bat in the 9th. .400 mobile devices and connected devices as well with MLB.TV Premium. Real-time highlights, live look-ins, pitch tracking widget, and more. Every night on every device. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV for details. So it's a 1-run game. And Elvis Araujo beginning his 2nd inning of relief. In 1-run games this year, the Dodgers are 14-17, and the Phillies have won 12 and lost 17. Jeff Francoeur's 2-run home run made this into a 1-run game. Dodgers had a 4-1 lead into the bottom of the 8th. With 1 out, Francoeur off Jim Johnson hit one into the left field stands for Francoeur, his 10th of the year. Now here's Ethier, 2 for 4. Leading off the 9th. ball and no strikes. Eighth year at the moment at 282. There's a ball and a strike. Araujo out of Venezuela, originally signed with the Indians 8 years ago. And then he bounced around the minor league system a couple of years. Did not pitch. Tommy John surgery. And the 1-2 is outside. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Quick turnaround for these clubs, and we'll be right back with you tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 o'clock here. Ethier down on strikes. Zach Greinke and David Buchanan. And on to Pittsburgh. Yasiel Puig coming up, and he's 2 for 4. Including his 8th home run of the year. Now with 29 runs batted in. Dodgers would love some insurance here in the ninth. Kenley Jansen warming. Puig takes inside and low. Here's Kenley. He'd be in search of his 20th save. One ball and no strikes. 1-1. These Phillies are a feisty lot. 17 games out of a wild card spot. 42-65, yet they have won 13 of the first 16 games since the All-Star break. And they're making life miserable on the Dodgers tonight, and although the Dodgers aren't helping themselves any either.
Yesterday and today, Charlie, we saw it yesterday, opportunities to really break that game wide open. They were unable to do that and end up losing, and today, same thing. Had some opportunities to break this game open, and here they are finding themselves with just a 1-run lead.
In the 5th inning, the Dodgers left the bases loaded. Left the bases loaded in the 6th. And had the bases loaded and 2 out in the 7th. And then Puig, base running blunder, tried to come home on a pass ball that didn't go very far. That hit somebody. Puig is on his way to first base.
That hit the umpire.
Yeah. I knew it hit somebody.
Yeah. Miss Puig.
Now with Porter walking it off now. Goes as a walk. Porter's telling his fellow umpires he's okay. A relative term. Joc Pederson's walked 3 more times tonight. Walked 3 times last night. And he's also flied to center.
Porter gave Araujo one.
Dodgers have walked 9 times tonight. And to go with their 10 base hits, 19 base runners. left 11 of them on. Left 13 on last night. 0-2 to Pederson with 1 out in the 9th. Callaspo on deck. It's gone final in Atlanta. The Giants have beaten the Braves 6-1. So the lead for the Dodgers up to the minute is a game and a half. And Pederson pops it into short left. Now coming on back in is Galvis, and is the second out. It brings up the switch hitting Alberto Callaspo. Ruiz going to go out and talk to Araujo. Callaspo's 19th start with the Dodgers. He and Guerrero, and perhaps a game or so with Kike Hernandez at third base until Justin Turner comes back from that leg infection. Callaspo on the year .232. Slices it foul. No balls and a strike to Alberto Callaspo. Toss over to first base. And Puig is back. There's a strike on the outside corner. Alberto Callaspo now 32. Diamondbacks, Royals, Angels, A's, Braves, Dodgers. And the 0-2. The inside and low, 1 ball and 2 strikes. Over the course of his career, Callaspo has played every position except catcher and center field. And the 1-2 is high and away, 2 balls and 2 strikes. .59 and a powerfully built 2 1/4. 2-2 with Puig leading from first. Araujo's 36th pitch. Inside and low, 3-2. So Puig will get a head start. Ryan Howard playing off the bag. And there goes Puig. Here's the pitch. And a fly ball into short right. Brancourt. That's that. Well, Kenley Jansen's coming in search of his 20th save. He'll be facing Galvis, who's 0 for 2 against him, Ruiz, who's 0 for 5 against him, and a pinch hitter. ERA of 3.04 in 26 and 2/3 innings. He has struck out 47, walked 4, but he has given up 5 home runs in those 26 and 2/3 innings. In search of his 20th save. And if he can do that, Anderson will win his 6th game. Brett was solid tonight in 6 innings, 1 run, 4 hits, 5 strikeouts, and 2 walks. Jansen climbing the saves ladder. The switch hitting Galvis, 0 for 3. Has faced Jansen twice, 0 for 2. 1 ball and no strikes. Galvis, a switch hitter, hitting .250 as a lefty. One ball and 1 strike. Jansen, who was fighting flu-like symptoms for about a week. Galvis late on the 93-mile-an-hour fastball, 1-2. 5 home runs, 29 runs batted in for Galvis. Dodgers 4, Phillies 3. We begin the bottom of the 9th. Jansen is a third of the way home.
Just kept climbing the ladder with that fastball. Pitch before that was top of the zone. This one out of the zone and gets him swinging.
Pinch hitter now. Andres Blanco for Ruiz. Blanco, a switch hitter. 286 on the year. Has 2 home runs, 11 runs batted in. Dominic Brown in the on-deck circle to pinch hit. Blanco's 2 home runs have both been pinch hit home runs. No balls and a strike. Dodgers cling to a 1-run lead. One out, bottom of the 9th. Big rip, 0-2.
A.J. Ellis has been set up outside, wanting both of those fastballs to be outside. First one went on the inside corner, and that one is in the middle of the plate.
On 0-2, Blanco down on strikes. 2 out in the 9th.
Well, Kenley just went with the strength. He's like, AJ wants that ball up in the zone. Wasn't really up in the zone. He was just going, you know what, I'm coming right at you with my cut fastball. If you can hit it, go for it.
He couldn't, he did it, or didn't. And now Brown has a pinch hitter in his career, 196 and 1 pinch hit home run. 2 out in the 9th. Five, 6 years ago, Baseball America had Brown as the #1 prospect and Mike Trout as the #2. Inside. And Brown with 2 home runs on the year. Didn't hit his first one, until last Thursday. 2 balls and no strikes, 2 out in the 9th. Outfield is deep. Pederson shaded toward right center. 2-0. 2-1.
Coming right at him with that fastball. 95-mile-an-hour cutter on the inner half.
Last couple of outings, we're mentioning that Jansen under the weather and his velocity was down. Well, he is above the weather and his velocity is up. But it's now 3-1 to Brown. Cesar Hernandez on deck.
I think the gun's been fixed, because I think early on when we had Brett Anderson throwing 95, I think the gun was off a little bit. We see here now Kenley throwing 96, 95. Okay.
3 balls and a strike to Brown with 2 out. 3-2.
What do you think you're getting here as a hitter? Here it comes.
Phillies wonder, what can Brown do for you? 3-2. Got him, and the Dodgers win. Kenley Jansen strikes out the side, recording his 20th save of the year, and the Dodgers hang on to beat the Phillies 4-3. For the Dodgers, 4 runs, 10 hits, 2 errors. For the Phillies, 3 runs, 6 hits, and no errors. Brett Anderson wins it. Kenley Jansen with the save, a 3-run home run for Yasiel Puig as the Dodgers improve their record to 61-46. The Lexus player of the game, the Dodgers starter tonight, Brett Anderson, went 6 innings, 1 run, 4 hits, 5 strikeouts, and 2 walks, improving his record to 6 up and 6 down. And Kenley Jansen a flawless night. So that's a wrap from Philadelphia. For Kelly Tennant, Omar Garcia-Parra, Charlie Steiner saying good night and goodbye from Philadelphia. We'll see you first thing tomorrow morning. Now we will send it back to Access Sportsnet Dodgers, brought to you by Nissan. See you in the morning.